guys, Jack from Peach Guitars here, and welcome to A Tale of Two Tones. But before I get into today's video about Billy Gibbons, I just want to please remind you to like this video if you enjoy it, comment down below with your thoughts, and make sure that you're subscribed to the Peach Guitars YouTube channel. So today I want to visit this new idea that we're going to throw out there called Tale of Two Tones, whereby I take a look at some of the most famous rigs of all time and kind of dissect how some really famous players have changed throughout the course of their history the guitar rig setups that they use quite drastically. And the great example that came to mind for today's video is Mr. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. So today I'm going to break down a couple of really influential and iconic rigs that Billy has used over the years. I'm not really going for a specific period of tone here. I'm really just trying to delve into what the kind of mindset I guess was that Billy had of recreating these kind of rigs. I want to look at some of the earlier ZZ Top kind of setup sounds that he would have had, as well as some of the more recent rig tones that he's had as well. So as I say, I'm going to delve into two different Billy Gibbons inspired rigs today. One which is kind of referencing his later period tones, and actually more into the current era of what he's currently known to use, which will involve this Fender Custom Shop double Esquire guitar with a Magnatone Super 59 M80 amplifier and a couple of pedals on the floor. I'm going to detail this a little bit later, and I'm also going to show you some early ZZ kind of tones as well, with a Les Paul and a Dr. Z. Alright guys, here we go. So this is rig A, if you like. I'm going to focus in this particular segment on really early ZZ Top, or actually not the very early stuff like the first album kind of era, because I believe at that point he was using either Pearly Gates, his famous 59 Les Paul, which I'm kind of trying to replicate here with this 60th anniversary 59 Les Paul, or a variety of other guitars. I know he used Esquires and Strats in the early days with small Fender combos. I'm trying to go just a little bit later than that to kind of around the Fandango period, which was around 74. One of my favourite albums of all time, in fact, in terms of guitar playing and guitar tone. This was kind of when I think Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top were coming into their own. They were getting a lot of recognition as being this amazing little band from Texas that just played these fantastic blues rock shuffles and stuff like that they're well known for. And this rig was kind of the epitome of that. It was utilising the classic Gibson Les Paul into a cranked amp kind of scenario, though Billy went about it in a slightly different way, and I pulled out this Dr. Z Z28 amp to kind of challenge some of those perceptions of the guys who maybe just think that old stuff was Les Paul into Marshall. Some of it I'm sure was, but I think there's a lot of merit to exploring some smaller amp or combo amp tones when it comes to looking at what Billy Gibbons did back in the day. So the Z28, for anyone who is unaware, is basically kind of quite a unique design, but it's fairly closely assimilated with some of those small brown face era Fender amplifiers, as well as with a few of Dr. Z's tweaks on it. But it really sounds close, I think, just plugging this Les Paul straight into the front end. And what I want to get across on this is, as usual, when I'm just playing a guitar straight into an amp, the dynamic response, that's really paramount, that's the most important thing, but also the sheer thickness of the tone. And obviously a lot of that had to do with his famous Pearly Gates Les Paul. I think this guitar does an exceptionally good job of getting really close to that response. When I'm using the bridge pickup, the volume's pretty much wide open, and I've actually backed the tone off to about 6 or 7. So you still get that bright stinging sound of the bridge pickup, but it's a little bit more rounded off and not quite as shrill. Now the reason I've done that and EQ'd the amp a little bit brighter with a little bit less low end is that some of my favourite Billy Gibbons tones are when he used the neck pickup on a humbucker loaded guitar like this. Rolled way down, I had the volume about 4 or 5 with the tone wide open, and I remember listening to the Fandango record, and there's a couple of slow blues tracks on there, and I couldn't figure out what guitar that was. It sounded like it might be a Strat, might be a Les Paul, and that really is just the clarity, I believe, of the Pearly Gates Les Paul, and this Z28 amp really does that justice. So you'll hear a real split personality that I'm going to show you in this clip, of going between the really full, fat, blaring bridge pickup tone that he's known for, that really snarly mid-range thing. I will just point out as well that, you know, case in point of guitar straight into an amplifier, It's really about the way you play. And Billy Gibbons had such a fantastic touch that was really, really notable on those earlier kind of era tones that he went for. That's all he really needed. I'm sure he did use a couple of effects here and there, and as he's well known to do, he did chop and change with a bunch of different guitars, but the Pearly Gates Les Paul was always the benchmark. Okay, so now that you've heard my take on the classic ZZ Top tone, I want to visit this rig, which I think is a little bit more contemporary and a little bit more relevant to what Billy Gibbons has been known to use in recent years. Anyone who knows anything about him, though, will be aware of the fact that he's played hundreds of guitars. He owns hundreds of guitars, and particularly in ZZ Top's live sets, you often find that he actually purposefully EQs his guitars to sound very close to, or pretty much an exact replication tonally of, that 59 Pearly Gates Les Paul, which I'd have referenced in the last clip. So it's kind of hard to nail down exactly what tones he likes to go for nowadays, because you've kind of got that very familiar classic ZZ Top tone in mind whenever you think of them. It's that Les Paul and that Fender or Marshall style amplifier. However, I wanted to pick this guitar, this double Esquire from the Custom shop, because this kind of puts me in mind of some of the guitars, the custom guitars that he has been seen using in recent years. They've got tons of iconic instruments. Between himself and Dusty Hill, the bass player, they've always got matching guitars that have been custom made for them with these really fancy artworks and just really novel, interesting instruments, usually quite lightweight as well, so they're usually chambered or semi-hollow guitars. And this guitar seemed to fit the bill. I think that if Billy Gibbons came by the store and decided to pick out a Fender Custom Shop guitar for himself, he'd probably be walking away with something like this at least. So pink paisley finish on this guitar. As I say, it's a double Esquire model with the reverse Tele bridge pickup, which again is just a little bit of a novelty, something that Billy would probably like in his tone, and it also helps to fatten up those higher strings, and really fatness is the key to getting Billy Gibbons style tones, I think. Whether it's a Telecaster guitar or a Strat or a Les Paul, whatever he goes for, it's all about that real thick mid-range. So the guitar is helping with that, but also a couple of pedals I've got on the floor are helping that case as well. So I'm plugged into, for this rig, I've got the Siete Santos Billy Gibbons Dunlop Octavio signature pedal. Really cool octave fuzz, so it's got a 7-band EQ on the top as well to shape the kind of post-fuzz EQ. So if you find that Octavias are just a little bit too harsh for you, you can actually use this pedal to control those frequencies really well. So I'm using that just for a couple of the really disgusting splatty fuzz tones. I know that he's been known to use a whole ton of different effects. There was one, the kind of little hexagon-shaped pedal, I can't remember, the Bionic Expander or something like that, that he's been using more recently, in conjunction with the Marshall JMP1 preamps and stuff like that. However, I didn't really want to go down the preamp route today. I wanted to use old school valve amps, and in more recent years he's been known for his affiliation with Magnatone, which is a brand that we're very lucky to stock here. I love playing these amps whenever I get the chance. And the Super 59 from the M80 series, which is their take on like a 59 plexi style amplifier. I'm using it for a fair bit of grunt. It's got a really sweet, rich mid-range tone in this amp, and I'm kicking that even further with another pedal on the floor when I go for some of those more mid-80s to 90s higher gain, sort of a little bit more of that processed Billy Gibbons sound, where he had a real mid-forward kind of cocked wah almost kind of a tone, and that's courtesy of an MXR 10-band EQ, which is just really pummeling the front end of this Magnatone with all the mid-range frequencies. Quite an extreme setting, but I think it works quite well to get that kind of era of Billy's tone. And the feel under the fingers is another whole dimension that I've got to try and put across in words. It's very difficult, but with this kind of tone, it's so expressive that the notes really just leap out, and that's testament to Billy's playing. To have this kind of tone, and he plays very, very softly with his fingers, as well as lightly with a pick, and of course he's famed for using 7-gauge, so very, very light gauge strings. I wanted to try and approximate some of that tone. Obviously this guitar, I haven't restrung it with 7s, but I have tuned it to E flat to get a little bit more of that depth of tone that he has, and also to get some of the elasticity in the strings for those really, really nice bends. So I think this rig kind of, hopefully will go for some of the later era Billy Gibbons tones, and certainly reminiscent of what he's using nowadays. we are for today's Tale of Two Tones. I hope you've enjoyed this little overview of what my personal take on Billy Gibbons' famous guitar rigs are. This one was actually quite a lot of fun to do because I'm a huge fan of Billy Gibbons playing. I think he's a really tasteful guitar player. I'm sure a lot of people are in agreement with that. Thank you very much for watching this video. As always, I really appreciate it if you'd give us a like and comment down below with your thoughts, and also let me know whether you prefer Rig A, the vintage, or Rig B, this more contemporary take. And if you'd like to find out any more information about any of these products in this video, head over to peachguitars.com. So that's it for today. Take care of yourselves, stay tuned, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.